Good morning, everyone. Hope you all are seated well. Today, we all mark the beginning of the 3-day conference on Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, also known as the Global Goals, were adopted by the United Nations in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and to ensure that by 2030, all people enjoy peace and prosperity.
There are 17 well-defined SDGs, and they are all integrated. So, it is recognized that the development in one of these must balance social, economic, and environmental sustainability. Through these 3 days, we'll be hearing from distinguished speakers from all walks of life and from across the globe. And to begin with, I would like to invite Professor Geeta K. Vemuganti, Dean of School of Medical Sciences and the convener of this conference, to introduce our invocation speaker.
A very good morning to all of you. Normally, we do not introduce an artist who gives a vocal prayer song at the beginning of any conference. But today is a very special occasion. We are honored that we have with us Mr. Aditya Jonnalagadda, a child with autistic spectrum disease. He has been trained by his mother, who herself is a vocalist, and she understood the talent of this child and who is to pick up music very naturally. He has done his education in NOS, as we know, and now he's employed at SV Marketing. And it's my pleasure to invite Aditya Jonnalagadda. Please give him a big round of applause. Those of you who are interested in genetics, we see a twin brother and a twin sister who is doing medicine and accomplished in 2 different areas. So Aditya, I request you to please give a song to us, okay?
Mudhakaraptamodakam sada vimukti sadakam kaladharavatam sakam vilasilokharakshakam nanayakaikanayakam vinasite badaityakam natasuphasunasakam namavitam vinayakam Nate tarati bekaram navodita tapaskaram namatsurari nijjaram natadika padudda sureswaram nidiswaram gajeswaram ganeshwaram maheshwaram samasaye paratparam nirantaram Samastaloka Shankaram Nirasta Daitya Kunjaram Dare Tarodaram Varam Vare Bhavaktam Aksharam Krupakaram Chamakaram Mudakaram Yasaskaram Manaskaram Namaskritam Namaskaromi Bhaskaram Akinchana dimajana chirantanoti bhajana purari purvanandana surari garva charvana prapanchana sabhishana dhananjaya dibhushana kapolada navaranam bhaje puranavaranam Nitantaka Takantimantakatmakatmajam Achintya rupamantahe Mantaraya krintanam Ridantare nirantaram Vasantameva yoginam Tamegadam tamevata Vichintayami santadam.
This was SDG 8 in action. Thank you very much, Aditya, and thank you, Mrs. Yamini Jonalagadda garu, and I hand over the mic to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. It was an honor to hear you.
We will now move on to the lighting of the lamp. Lighting of the lamp symbolizes the illumination of knowledge, positivity, and unity. It's an age-old practice which signifies the dispelling of darkness and the advent of wisdom.
So, for this, I invite Professors B.J. Rao, Anand K. Kondapi, M. Ghanshyam Krishna, P. Tirumal, K. Kailash, Geeta K. Veboganti, and C. Ramakrishna.
I invite Dr. Arvind and Dr. Siddharth onto the stage as well. Please. Let the radiance of this lamp symbolize the collective spirit of this gathering. Thank you, everyone. I request you all to be seated on the dais. Moving on, I would like to invite Professor Anand K. Kondapi, Dean of Life Sciences and Director of IQAC, University of Hyderabad, to extend a warm welcome.
Good morning, all the participants and delegates on the dais, and also delegates of the dais and faculty members and students. And the 17 Sustainable Development Goals adopted by UN is an important development, and with an objective to initiate a dialogue on SDGs among disciplines, the University of Hyderabad in its Golden Jubilee year organizing this international conference with the participation of experts working in the related area of SDGs. And it is a 3-day event, actually 2.5-day event. And on behalf of IOE and IQAC team, and also conveners and co-conveners of the conference, I welcome all delegates who have come from different places to share their experiences on SDGs, and hope that the participant will use the opportunities at this conference to fullest. And we thank the Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao garu, for presiding the event, and special thanks to Professor Sriram Ramakrishna Garu, taking time to attend this event and agreeing to deliver the inaugural address. Once again, I welcome all to the conference, and we expect that the students take full benefit of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Moving on, I'd like to invite Dr. Arvind S. Susarla, convener of this conference, to give us some much needed clarity on the event.
Good morning, everyone. As one of the conveners of this international conference, I extend a warm welcome to all. My thanks to Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao Garu, distinguished guests, and all present here for gracing this inaugural session. Professor Anand Kundapi just articulated that in 2015, the United Nations committed to 17 goals, the global goals of sustainable development, which are to be achieved by the year 2030. Consequently, countries began to deliberate and redraw their institutional policies, vision, and practices. For example, Niti Aayog spelled out in the year 2022 an Indian model of implementing SDGs. Localization, which emphasizes concurrent focus on creating institutional ownership, establishing robust review and monitoring system, developing capacities for SDG planning and monitoring, and lastly, the promoting of a whole of society approach. Now, Niti Aayog's model may arguably be viewed as an evolution of Indian perspective. From Technology Vision 2020, in 17 volumes covering 17 sectors, was spelled out in as early as March of 1996, to more recently developing a framework and a roadmap for India through the Indian Millennium Missions, IMM, in 2020, and so on. Universities have a role to reflect and identify prospective development pathways in articulating effective implementation of the SDGs. In this connection, our new education policy of the 2020, which places an emphasis on multi and interdisciplinary research and teaching opportunities, are beyond the conventional disciplinary moorings of knowledge. With 7 years remaining to realize the full potential of SDGs, there is an urgent need to transcend disciplinary barriers for implementing SDGs. It's in this context, University of Hyderabad, in its Golden Jubilee year, is advancing a dialogue across disciplinary knowledges on achieving sustainable development goals. The Internal Quality Assurance Cell, IQAC, with funding from the Directorate of the Institution of Eminence, IOE, is bringing together wide-ranging experiences sent from India and abroad to deliberate on the status of implementing SDGs in India. Participants at this conference, titled Knowledge for Sustainable Development, dialogues across disciplines to implement sustainable development goals, are to address all the 17 SDGs. There will be a focus on deliberations on models implementing SDGs in India, a discussion on use cases of SDG to draw some lessons for implementing SDGs, a spotlight on the need of exchanging ideas on implementing SDGs within the Indian context, and a discussion on evolving relationship between academics, practitioners, and policymakers. The conference over the next 3 days, under 3 broad themes, is bringing together views of about 40 invited speakers. Over 100 researchers are to present either orally or as a poster. Yesterday, a pre-conference workshop titled Empowering Students and Young Researchers to Contribute on the Sustainable Development Goals was held. I'm sure you all will agree that a robust deliberation at the conference is crucial for the success of this university-wide initiative. IQAC and this organizing committee of this conference invites your participation in the SDG conference. Kindly encourage peers and collaborators to actively participate in the conference. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope you're all on the same page now. Next, I would like to call Professor B.J. Rao, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, to give the presidential address.
Good morning to all of you. Welcome to this beautiful conference on sustainable developments. Firstly, I must apologize. I have a dry cough. I have a lot of ideas, but I hope my voice cooperates. This is a conference that we launched celebrating 50 years of University of Hyderabad. Golden Jubilee celebration, kick-off event. There cannot be a better theme than the theme of sustainable development for the world, global. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is India's adage. Only civilizational country that looked at the globe as one family. And therefore, Indian civilization ethos is deeply embedded in the theme of this conference. And this conference is for all of us, for the future generations to come, and for the beautiful earth and the atmosphere that we all enjoy. So this is a celebration with caution and responsibility. I don't want to go into too many details of SDGs. I'm sure we will elaborate and deliberate on those aspects in this celebration. Firstly, let's applaud University of Hyderabad for its successful 50 years of journey. Now, SDGs are extremely popular discussion points in the world now, justifiably so. And why are we doing this as a conference in an educational institution? We are not doing this in the corporate world. We are not doing this in the political world. It's not a UNO. It is an educational institution. Why are we doing it? That's an interesting question. If you look all around us carefully, there is a fair amount of geopolitics happening of different types. That one facet of the world, that is one facet of the world. The other facet is to achieve 17 SDG goals by 2030, not too far away. That's the other facet of reality. Geopolitics being a counter theme for SDGs, counter theme because in geopolitics, self-interests take upper hand. So when geopolitics counter the real spirit of SDGs, who is the balancing force? Educational institutions, intellectual thought force, thought leaders, students, thinkers, they are the balancing point. They need to bridge this gap. And therefore, we treat this as ideas session for bringing two different poles together. Several wars are going on now. As I speak, maybe more wars are lurking around. So therefore, the ultimate and the real purpose of holding this conference in a university setup is to think of newer ways of bridging the gaps, connecting the dots, and coming up with ideas that would lead to sustainable development. Every model of development that we have generated, we have followed, more or less looks unsustainable so far. Every growth has a hidden damage in it. We all know that. And everybody is going after GDP-centric growth. And you know what it means. So we need to have a different paradigm now. We need to have growth that is not environmentally inimical. We need to have growth that is not excessively GDP-centric. We need to look at parameters in SDGs which do not excessively depend on GDPs. There are parameters. Maybe countries like India must focus on those. So there are important and interesting ideas that we need to explore in these conferences and come up with action plans and convey our deliberation points to the policymakers. It is very important that we don't stay insular in this dynamic world. I'm not being hyperbolic, it is possible. So this is the moment for us to really think about how to achieve SDGs in a manner that doesn't imbalance the system, that allows developing countries to develop, and that doesn't allow developed countries to be oppressive on developing countries at policy level, etc., etc. So there are lots of interesting that we need to think about. One reality is staring at us. If you look at global map, all developed countries have contributed to the highest per capita carbon emissions. That's how they have gone there. And the reverse of that map are those countries who are extremely vulnerable for environmental disasters, the reverse of that map. So you see there are two reciprocal maps sitting together. This is the situation now. This reciprocity must be mitigated from both sides. So the countries which are vulnerable because they are less developed, environmentally much more sensitive, should be supported by the well-developed country, and the well-developed country should have active action plans to reduce their carbon footprint. It has to go both ways. And for that, we need to develop ideas, action plans, innovative methods, and go further. There isn't too much time. It's a very challenging times. And it is for all of us to work collectively. This is one goal where the entire world has to cooperate. So let's work together. Let us live in the ideas world. Maybe out of 100 ideas, one idea clicks. We need one Mahatma Gandhi, finally, to liberate the country in a bloodless coup. So I think ideas are important, and we germinate them here. That's all I need to say. Thank you very much. I hope this hall gets filled up by more youngsters, because this is, in some sense, for them. We have done what we could, good or bad, but I think let's do good now. collectively. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you so much, sir, for that thought-provoking speech. Next, I would like to ask all the dignitaries on the stage to be seated in their respective seat in the audience.
So now we are having a video message from our guest of honor, Mr. Shombi Sharp. Mr. Sharp is the UN Resident Coordinator for India since November 2021. Within the organization, he most recently served as United Nations Resident Coordinator in Armenia after holding several leadership positions in United Nations Development Programme, UNDP. Mr. Sharp holds a postgraduate diploma in HIV/AIDS management from National Medical University of South Africa and Stellenbosch University in South Africa. So, we will proceed to hear from him.
Namaskar. On behalf of the UN in India, it's a great privilege to address the University of Hyderabad International SDG Conference, and especially all of you, the bright young minds there today. Mujhe afsos hai कि मैं आज आपके साथ नहीं हूँ. I truly wish I could be there with you in person today. I wish to thank the Hyderabad University for choosing the critical and timely theme of how we can achieve the SDGs through dialogue across disciplines. Dear friends, we are at the midpoint of the SDGs and the 2030 Agenda. Some months ago, the world came together for the UN General Assembly in New York for the most significant stock-taking of progress and challenges on the SDGs since their launch in 2015. Unfortunately, the news is that we are dramatically behind schedule. We're only on track for some 15% of the global targets, and fully a third are either standing still or even regressing. The world is hungrier than at any point in the last 2 decades. At present trends, gender equality is hundreds of years away, and we are staring down a climate abyss. The past year was the hottest on record, some say for 100,000 years. We are going from global warming to global boiling. The message is urgent, but there is also much to be hopeful about. At the SDG Summit, we saw strong political commitments that reaffirmed the world's commitment to the SDGs as our only blueprint towards peace and prosperity by 2030. The recent COP28 in Dubai saw leaders call for all countries to move away from burning fossil fuels for the first time, helping keep the 1.5 degrees dream alive. And colleagues, India is another important stream of optimism. The energy and momentum from India's ambitious and SDG-focused G20 presidency demonstrated that India is now an engine driving a global movement for sustainability, with leadership in climate action and increasingly a provider of global development best practices. Most importantly, I am optimistic because of you, the young people in the audience, especially here in India, with the greatest, most diverse youth generation in history, more young minds bringing their energy and solutions than ever before. Empowering young people, including young women and girls, Nari Shakti, is the game changer that both India and the world needs. Dear friends, to step up our efforts, the UN has identified 6 key acceleration areas where investment can have the greatest impact on SDG achievement, both globally and here in India. This means investing in food systems so that farmers get a fair wage, everyone can afford a healthy diet, and that soil and forests aren't degraded. It means ensuring access to clean energy at affordable prices, to help fight climate change, ensure millions of green jobs, and to curb air pollution. It means investing in digital connectivity so that everyone has access to information and ideas, access to digital services and 21st century skills. It means investing in education to break cycles of poverty, safeguard women's empowerment, and to bridge the gap for decent jobs and livelihoods for India's youth. It means boosting jobs and social protection, paying a living wage, tackling inequalities and ensuring no one is left behind. And it means taking critical action on climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution to ensure a livable planet. Dear friends, in closing, in these challenging times, we must come together and find collective solutions to get the 2030 agenda back on track. We must embrace partnerships across sectors and generations between you, young people, and older generations like mine. Jo dil se young hai. As the Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said, the SDGs are not just a list of goals. They reflect the hopes, the dreams, rights, and expectations of people everywhere. And he also remarked that among all, India is the country that can make the SDGs a global reality, with you as the core foundation of that hope. Wahat Dhanyavad.
Once again, good morning. Another privilege and honor bestowed on me. And I welcome Professor Sriram Ramakrishna on behalf of University Fraternity. We are honored that you took out time to join us in person. It's very difficult to describe Professor Sriram Ramakrishna. I thought I'll start a formally way with his education from Andhra. After undergraduation, he went on to do his MTech from IIT Madras. His PhD is from University of Cambridge, UK, and his another degree is from Harvard on GMP. And all this, those of us who look at H index, any guess what his H index would be? In 3 digits, 189 H index, with the citations of 1,80,000. Enviable. We talk about social media likes, dislikes, and I don't think anything can beat this. It's an honor, Professor Ramakrishna, that you joined us here. He is from National University Singapore, from College of Design and Engineering, Mechanical Division. He is also the director of the Center for Nanotechnology and Sustainability. His leadership in NUS has been documented very well by his deanship and various director positions within NUS. Not only that, he's also the to-go person in Singapore. He's at a call for the ministry, and he has a voice in Singapore which is heard by all. And he's an advisor to many, many prestigious bodies of Singapore, and I guess that's the reason why that's one of the most enviable country. And he has received various, obviously with that H index and citations, he would be considered as the top one, not even one, I guess it's 0.1% of highly cited researchers in the world in material sciences. His expertise in various areas, he wears many hats, in material sciences, on various SDGs. And we talk about a closed loop in medical field. And while reading about SDGs for public health students and all, the circular economy is a word that fascinates me. Our grandmothers used to do what we call it optimization of resources. And this word of circular economy is something that is, again, reiterates the same philosophy of regenerating our earth, not wasting materials and putting it to best use by recycling. And he's an expert in that. He's called for various, he's an opinion leader in Singapore, and his various awards are, I mean, I can't list his awards are already mentioned in the CV and our proceedings. And he's a point of contact, as I said, for Ministry of Sustainability and Environment. He has received various awards, a Queen-Born Fiber Award, IIT Hyderabad Distinguished Professor, Madras Distinguished, you name an organization and they have invited him for a talk or for some award. And he's also, his chair position is called Everest Chair. I guess it very well suits his accomplishments, and it sits very well on you, sir. And he's also one thing which, as an academician, I think one thing that we should imbibe is one of his products, and that is his contribution to a book by UNESCO. I think we should all make it part of the curriculum, and as our Vice Chancellor has emphasized, and the very reason why we are having this meeting is that we all work in pockets in this area, but we have not come together as a team to work towards SDGs, and especially our community engagement. And that's the reason why Professor Anand Kondapi through IQAC has taken up this. And his book, UNESCO, and this is freely available, you can download it and make it your Bible for this SDGs. And this is entitled Knowledge Driven Actions, Transforming Higher Education for Global Sustainability. And NEP again emphasized this the same. And I think this is something that I'm sure he would talk more about it, and I would not stand between him and his talk. And his leadership at International Forum again is very, very accomplished, and he's in the top 25. So nanoscience, material science, sustainable development goals, circular economy, and whatnot. You'll hear from him. Again, on behalf of my fraternity, I would like to thank Professor Sriram Ramakrishna Garu for joining us, and over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
First of all, my heartfelt thanks to Professor Geeta Madam for elaborately introducing me so that you feel more closer to me by knowing who this guy. I like to begin by saying thanks to Professor Vijay Rao, Vice Chancellor, organizers of SDF conference, for inviting me and allowing me to share my experiences with respect to the theme of this conference. Let me begin by saying a Happy New Year to all of you. Happy New Year. Because we just passed 3 years that has been quite difficult worldwide, but I think 2024 seems to be a better year for most people around the world. Second, I would like to congratulate University of Hyderabad for celebrating 50th anniversary, Golden Jubilee celebration. Congratulations. I understood that you are an Institute of Eminence in India, which is a major recognition by itself. Also impetus for you to achieve many more things in the years to come, decades to come. Because it's a university, and universities are there to live on for thousands of years. So I'm sure your university, University of Hyderabad, would progress, and I wish you a good success in the years ahead. While they're still looking for my slides, that's fine. I can actually give a speech without slides, not a problem. I reverse the presentation since we are looking for slides. Let me start with the punchline of my half-an-hour talk. The punchline is simple. Inequalities in the world are widening. SDGs, realization of 17 SDGs are central for humanity to mitigate this inequality that's widening. Why would I say inequality worldwide is alarmingly increasing? There are 3 reasons. Again, if you are from management school, they say if you have more than 3 points, don't say it. Nobody will remember. So I have to distill down many points to 3 points, and I just say those 3 points. One reason why I believe the inequalities are widening, the massive expansion of deep technologies, which I'm also involved. These deep technologies, while they're reaching billions of people, but they're also widening the inequality among the people, because there's only people, some leveraging it, many others are not actually leveraging deep technologies. One is deep technology. Second one, massification of higher education took place in the last 20 years. More than 200 million students attend the universities worldwide. But we have seen the universities are not exactly in the similar quality across the world. So the disparity in terms of the quality of universities is also a reason, I believe, for contributing to the inequality. Third reason, as I said, more than 3 reasons, they'll switch off. So I just have to pick the one. So third reason, I place geopolitics a little bit ahead of climate change. Of course, climate change is also very important. Geopolitics, right now on the dais, you notice me and Professor Bijay Rao, we were having a brief chat, and we were basically talking about alarmingly how the global geopolitics is shaping up, unfortunately. The geopolitics also are already contributing to the inequalities because it is affecting supply chain, value chain around the world. Okay, slides came up, so I can jump into my slides-based presentation. Yes, its pointer is here. That's good. Yeah. So I have lots of slides, but the intention of having many slides is to give a comprehensive picture of the topic I'm addressing. But you don't need to worry about if I pass through the slides quickly to maintain the time. I have placed a copy of my slides on the LinkedIn. It's already there. So you can just go to the LinkedIn, there's a link, you can download a full set of slides. So no need to worry in terms of if I move through the slides faster. And I can be contacted through the WhatsApp, and that's email, and that's the details. The topic is transforming higher education for global sustainability. Okay, we need to go to the next one. So I always prepare one slide about the conference itself, because when you place a copy of slides on the internet, there are people, worldwide audience, they don't know what's the context in which you are delivering the speech. So I normally put a slide based on the conference itself. That's the slide. Okay, just go ahead to the next slide. Yeah. Okay, let me introduce my own university just briefly. Because University of Hyderabad is an institution of eminence, and also a university aspiring to become even stronger, nationally, internationally. So here is an example of National University of Singapore, where I've been at this university for 30 years. I saw its journey from an unknown university to a world-class university. I witnessed it, I'm part of it, part of the action. So we are right now among the top 8 universities in the world and number 1 in Asia according to the QS ranking. But you can also go by the THE as well as many other rankings. Our university is doing extremely well. And we have lots of highly cited researchers. And one interesting thing is we have 60,000 students. It's more than 10 times the University of Hyderabad. I was told you have 5,000 students. We are actually 60,000 students. So to become a world-class university with 60,000 students is actually quite difficult. So it's a huge challenge. But interesting, if you notice, it's a very research-intensive university. We produce about 12,500 papers in the year 2022 alone. So it's massive. And we have collaborations over 3,900 institutions around the world from 170 countries. So the key message here is higher education institutions have to have a deeper, ubiquitous research culture and also have to collaborate globally much more deeply and widely. So that's the message. Yeah. Okay. All right, give me the laptop. I can keep it. Yes. Good. Okay, just to show you, these are some of the bright people we attract, we retain at the university, highly cited researchers. They directly contribute to the ranking of the university, and also they help to attract a lot of good young faculty members and students, as well as research funding to the university. Okay, we got plenty of slides. I think I'll skip this one, next one. Okay, I know many of you might have been to Singapore or heard about it. Let me just introduce Singapore. That's a photo I took it, so I have a copyright, so I don't need to worry about using it. And so that's, yes, good. It's working? Good, perfect. Okay. Okay. So that's a beautiful side of Singapore, and you are most welcome to visit Singapore. Just I got the invitation from Professor Rao. Come to Hyderabad anytime you like, so reciprocal. And the whole idea is this one. It's difficult to read, but it tells you it's one of the attractive destinations in the world. So the amount of money tourists spend in visiting a city or a country, if you look at it, Singapore is among the top 10 highly touristic place in the world. So obviously it must be quite nice. Okay, that's along with the Paris and New York and other institutions, other cities. I think there's a focus issue, but I can always say it. So let's look at Singapore not as a tourist destination, but more in terms of the ESG, which has environmental and social and governance aspects. In terms of the economic pillar, per capita income is actually highest in the world. Except barring one or two countries, there are special cases. Singapore is the richest country in the world on a per capita basis. And that was 20 years ago or 40 years ago, it was not the case. There's a massive progress in the last 40 years. And it's just not about only money. It's a nice place to live. It has many safety features as well as good living conditions and infrastructure. And you could see lots of Singaporeans hanging around by the bay. And so in the societal pillar, we also analyze the details in terms of living conditions. And again, Singapore comes quite top. And then in terms of the environmental pillar, which is how do we emphasize the quality of the environment, and in our sustainable development, again, Singapore comes across on the top. Very good. So I'm not promoting Singapore, but as you need an example to illustrate that economic growth can go along with development and progress in E, S, and G. Those are details, but as a Singapore, we always look at the future. We're already thinking 100 years ahead. And 100 years ahead, we have a projections in terms of the rising sea levels, climate conditions, and so on. I know we have a waterman here. He would understand the future challenges of the humanity based on the water. So we have a huge progress in a circular water. So we have 100% circularity. For example, all the water discharged from every household is collected, treated, and recycled. So not a single drop of water is wasted. So you need a massive infrastructural design and implementation to have a high quality treatment. Okay, so those are the details. Now I know Geeta madam is worried, this guy is talking about Singapore, are we here for a speech about Singapore? Hey, this is the SDG conference, so don't worry, I'm jumping in. So these are the details, and these are the basics of a SDG. If you are a student, you might be wondering, what is this? So SDGs are 17 of them, and they've been, I give an idea. In year 2000, they used to call Millennial Developmental Goals. And more recently, that is 15 years later, 2015, they got renamed, more aspects have been added. Now we have 17 Sustainable Development Goals agreed upon by more than 170 countries around the world in Paris, what we call also Paris Agreement. And it has 169 targets. There's lots of targets, so it's just not the goals. Each goal has many targets, and each country is expected to progress. And now that's a report that was analyzed. I'm going to look at simple. We almost midway, 15 years since 2015. Only 15% of the SDGs are actually realized, or there is a serious progress. Remaining, not much progress has happened. That's the reason my punchline was, SDGs progress is not happening. That means we are leading to equalities deepening around the world that will affect many aspects of humanity. And of course, universities has a huge role to play. Okay, these are the details, and I will not go now, because when we say only 15% of the 17 SDGs have been progressed, we need to analyze each SDG and how that has been progressed. These are the more details there. I'll skip all of them now. Okay. And now the role of universities, because you have this conference, and the University of Hyderabad probably have to think much more deeply, how would I go about it? So this is a report which Professor Geeta mentioned. I was one of the authors. It's a UNESCO report. We launched it a year ago in Spain, and there is a QR code, and you can actually download it. It's free. And these are 17 of us around the world. We discussed it more than 2 years, and then came up with that report. So these are the essence of the report. There are 3 important aspects. Beyond disciplinary boundaries for the SDGs, that means to progress on sustainable developmental goals, we have to think multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary. For example, University of Hyderabad has so many departments, faculties, or schools, or the units. The question is, how do they collaborate much more deeply and address sustainable development goals? So that's basically an important aspect. Second one is the ways of knowing. There is a bias in the way we go about knowledge. We emphasize knowledge generation, knowledge absorption had to be much more broadly understood, what we call epistemic understanding of knowledge, or what we call human knowledge. Again, Professor Geeta madam said, we were chatting about circular economy. Circular economy is practiced in India most ancient civilizations or societies or communities, it's not new to them. But it is not been underpinned with the modern methods, understanding, and also passing that information much more systematically to the other people, future generations, as well as broadly and widely around the world. So that's the focus of ways of knowing should be broadened. The third one is partnerships. It's extremely important. Even though the world is globalized and deglobalized, partnership across the university, across the institution, across the world are extremely important and necessary if you want to advance the knowledge, if you want to progress on United Nations 17 Sustainable Developmental Goals. That's the idea. So those are basically the headliners. Now you can go into the details. For example, the first one, beyond disciplinary boundaries, you are talking about interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and you're also looking at how do you apply this methodology to address sustainable development goals. So now you can recognize I'm a professor, right? That's what professors do. Make the slides more complex so that students feel he knows something. So that's my idea. So otherwise you will go away, this guy came all the way, I'm not very sure, he just put some lines there. So I'm sure when I make my slides busy and very difficult for you to read, you think this guy must be good, right? That's one of the technique anyway. So this is not for that, it's actually to help you to understand the terminology, what do we mean by that according to the UNESCO report. So multidisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity. Okay, so coming to the second one is about ways of knowing, and I illustrated through the circular economy and the civilization that they have been practicing that quite a bit. So So we believe the Western way of thinking, Western thought dominated the human progress in the last 100 or 150 years. That is not necessarily a bad thing, but the thing is, we also left out a lot more other knowledge that is there in the indigenous communities. When I visit Africa, we notice that, South America as well. So that we wanted to emphasize that particular knowledge need to be integrated, harnessed, further advanced for the progress of the humanity. That's the idea. So those are the details. Then interacting with the society, how we collaborate as a university, for example, University of Hyderabad, how it engages the local community and as well as the larger community in the country is very important in progressing on sustainable development goals. Okay, these are more specific recommendations, and then these are the views expressed by the other experts in the world, and this is one more. Okay, so basically it is about the universities we need for the future we want. That's basically. So when you progress on sustainable development goals, by adjusting your curriculum, pedagogy, coursework, research, collaboration, partnerships, or service, essentially you are nurturing, building a university we want for the future we seek. Now, SDGs, if you progress, like for example, University of Hyderabad, how does it help you? It also helps you in improving your ranking. There is a new rankings that are coming, that includes NAC as well. We have provided through IIT Madras. I have been providing inputs to the NAC ranking, and there's going to be much more deeper sense of sustainability in the future adjusted NAC methodology. So let me illustrate ranking of methodology. Here is disclosure. I'm an advisor to the QS World Ranking. So obviously I had to disclose that to you before I talk about these rankings. And so this is what the United Nations say about the ranking in the world. They say global rankings of the universities should be adjusted so that there is an emphasis on sustainable development. So that's what the United Nations say. Now, if you look at the Times ranking, this is how they emphasize. I will go quickly. And if you look at World University ranking and impact ranking of the Times, for example, MIT, it looks extremely good in the World University ranking. But when you look at it on the impact ranking, it doesn't look that well. Similarly, there is another example, University of Toronto. Lack of data. So whatever information that's there, I took it out. I compared how a university looked like in a traditional, conventional ranking. And you start looking from the lens of sustainability, how this university compares with others. So obviously, even a well-established institutions, there's a lot they need to do in terms of sustainable development. Okay, this is the QS ranking. Those are the details, the weightages. And this is Indonesia, there's a green ranking. And this is their weightages. And that's the indicator, indicators, 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 indicators. And so we are now actually putting together a paper where we are comparing all these rankings, and then we are looking at the weightages and how much is the coverage in terms of the 17 sustainable developmental goals, and that's how they look like. So when it is published, I'm sure I will share that document with you. The whole idea is to look at all the global rankings and how they are mapping to the sustainable developmental goals and how accurate and precise they are. And then we are trying to bring an insight about these global rankings. Now I jump into the other topic, SDGs and curricula. I will go faster because we want more time for Q&A. So with the Times Higher Education, I do sometimes this kind of sessions where we look at SDGs and curricula. And okay, we also work with ABET, which is if you have an engineering program in your university, you would be familiar with the Washington Accord. You would also be familiar with ABET. It's a US accreditation system. And Mike Milligan is the director, the guy on my side. And so we looked at the universities and what actually happening. So these are the things, vision and mission. How well is your vision and mission are capturing? Campus operations, teaching, learning, community engagement, and research. So I will now go into the detail. So there is clearly gap in most universities around the world. So what's causing the gap? Academics and leaders are not conversant with the SDGs. Most department heads, deans, or provosts, presidents, vice chancellors, they're not actually familiar. So that's one other problem. And they're not yet pervasive, cross-cutting themes across the university. And of course, finally, nothing works without the money. So no budgets, no action, nothing happens. So again, this is a big problem around the world, lack of funds. So how do you bridge the gap? Train the trainers, train the leaders, and transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approaches to be embedded in the university ways of doing things. And then that's a lot more details. And we analyzed details, I wouldn't go into that. And then in terms of campus operations, there are also gaps. There's a lack of research funds, a lack of opportunities, and a lack of career opportunities as well. So typical promotion, tenure processes have not really absorbed the concepts of sustainable developmental goals. So national governments have to prioritize sustainability research, and universities have to develop internal tools how to support this. And universities have to recognize individuals that are actually contributing significantly in this domain. And of course, form international partnerships. Okay, it's working. So we look at again the R&D spending in the world, and we notice most countries do not spend enough budgets on R&D. That includes India. Normally, if you are a really progressive country, 2.5 or somewhere close to 3% of GDP should be invested on scientific research and development. So I think India has a long way to go. India needs to spend a lot more investments in research. So those are the details. Okay, these are more details. And I think in view of the time, I wouldn't go through all those jokes. Okay. So good news is, when I did my PhD, actually there's not that many journals, but right now there are 20,000 journals and 10 million researchers in the world. It's massive. The last 20 years, there's a massive expansion of the research enterprise in the world. And also there is a massive changes happening in terms of innovation. That was the book I wrote about 10 years ago, thinking what will happen in the future in terms of scientific research. But that's meant for inspiring young people and also give them the confidence that they can do research. So, epilogue. I'm in India, I'm in Hyderabad. I had to talk a little bit about what's going on here, even though I'm remotely observing the information. The good thing is you've seen some of the Indian villages, far east, northeast. They are leveraging sustainability, promoting tourism. It's very nice. I've overheard waterman talking about Chambal. I am not sure how they can promote tourism, but I'm very sure there's a lot of opportunity for promoting, attracting that kind of industry. It's an industry by itself. Tourism is an industry by itself. I'm the Everest Chair. That's because I actually helped Nepal in building a world-class university. So we actually got land, we built the university, and I guide them in terms of how to dream big and make it happen. And it's actually happening. So, and India launches satellites to study black holes. So, one side, it's focusing on bringing masses above the poverty line. At the same time, India is also catching up in the science and technology competition worldwide, which is a good thing. And we looked at recently, under the UN SCAP, we also discussed the emerging technologies. There is a report we wrote, you can read it later. So industrial revolution, what they call Industry 4.0, those are the technologies, several of them. So India is very well positioned because the software industry is extremely strong, and Industry 4.0, the backbone, is the software. So obviously India has a massive inroads in the software industry. I think in terms of industrial transformation, Industry 4.0, I think India can play a huge role. So we mapped SDGs and then look at these Industry 4.0 technologies, how they can help in terms of meeting UN SDG goals and making a progress. So those are details. Okay. My general belief is I'm a cross-fields researcher. I truly believe if you can learn more than one discipline, one knowledge, it's very satisfying and it broadens the mind and also it makes you more human. So fundamentally, we are human, but we need to recognize that we are human. That requires knowledge beyond one subject, one discipline. More is better. Okay, the good news is in terms of interdisciplinary research, which is required for sustainable developmental goals, according to this analysis, India is doing well. So India comes quite at the end, where 30% of the publications seems to be interdisciplinary, which is a nice, good thing. So I congratulate India, all of you, for making that happen. Absolutely. So the data speaks by itself, right? This is the data, independently analyzed, not by me, by a global team. Okay, conclusions. Basically, these are my personal views. Universities do not exist without the societies. This implies the university to play an important role of enabling and enhancing societies via creation of knowledge as well as imparting knowledge and skills. That's what we do. Thought leadership by the academics and scholars is now even more important than before because we have a fragmented humanity. I said geopolitics. Earth's life supporting systems because of climate change are in risk, and nations are lagging behind in meeting United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Universities need to update respectful learning ecosystem to equip the students and also the attitudes and the value systems. And universities need to embed sustainable development in their learning process. And it has to take an institutional approach in terms of education, pedagogy, as well as research. And the last one is indigenous knowledge, repositories, networks should be built, should be enhanced, should be progressed and integrated with the current ways of pursuing scientific knowledge for the betterment of the humanity. So if I had to again put that in 3 bullets, the management guru says, don't say more than 3 bullets, so I just condense it. I think year 2000, the conversation among the universities, when I was the dean at the time, so it's about access to the higher education. Later on, competitive skills, knowledge infused in the higher education. Moving forward, it's about higher education designed to impart knowledge, skills, attitudes and values to create a sustainable future. That's basically the universities of the future. So I think the UN speaker said that it's in the interest of the humanity to progress on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I agree with that. So I just end my speech with a nice photo so that you will have a good memory of Singapore, and you're most welcome to visit me when I come here. I'm certainly going to visit you. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir. We usually don't do questions in the inaugural session, but since you've shown some interest, we are doing a quick 1 or 2 questions, question-answer session. If anyone have any questions?
Only simple questions.
Thank you for a very informative and tour of where we stand today. My very simple question is on the last slide: massification, digitization, and let's say greenification, to continue in the same tone. You spoke about curricula in the universities. How do you think the curriculum now must change so that it is in line with what you have rightly summarized as the reality of today, globally, and of course in India as well?
Thank you. So, curriculums were designed a long time ago in most universities, and at that time sustainability still was not actually major emphasis or neither a need. So, but when we say every subject or every course should have sustainability, it's quite difficult. So someone teaching mathematics, you would say, how would I do it? So there are challenges, but that's where the conversation should begin. Every course, every module, how could they introduce elements of sustainability? Certain courses will have much more depth and coverage. Certain courses, modules will have a lesser coverage. So one could aim the sustainability related emphasis in each course module, anywhere between to 55% to 30%, I think that would be a major progress. And there is also lack of textbooks. There's a lack of teaching material, because I teach the two courses. One course I teach is materials and sustainability, and I write my own books to teach because there's no books. And the second one I teach is biomaterials, but more and more I realize human mind is much more important than biomaterials. So I teach actually human body and mind in my class. 200 students attend, very popular. So I emphasize the role of mind, and then the question is the perspectives. So again, one could talk about those things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Since there's no other, let's thank the speaker. Thank you, sir, for the insightful talk. We learned a lot about the role of universities in SDGs, how to achieve SDGs in the university level, and how universities should be judged on a different metric altogether. Now, as a token of our gratitude, I would like to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, B.J. Rao, to hand over a small memento to our speaker.
Thank you very much, sir, once again. So now we are concluding this session with a vote of thanks, and for the same, I would like to invite Dr. S. Siddharthan to extend the same.
Very good morning to one and all the dignitaries and the invited special guests here. As a convener of this conference, it gives me great pleasure to thank all of you who have come here. I know we are ready to attend so many interesting sessions by different experts in their different fields. So I would like to conclude my vote of thanks with a very short talk here. So first, I would like to thank our Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao, for initiating this entire conference on SDGs. So as we know, SDGs are still, though Professor Sriram, he's mentioned that SDGs were called as the millennial goals, and now we have the 17 SDGs, and probably from now on we might face several other problems which need to be dealt, especially with the AI and things like that. Maybe more goals might be added. So this conference is kind of an eye-opener to most of the students here, and that's the right time we start this conference during the Golden Jubilee of our university. And then I would like to especially thank Professor Sriram, who has taken his time from his busy teaching schedule at the university and several other delegations he has. And he has given a very good, very complete picture of all the SDGs. And it's a really eye-opening lecture. Thank you, sir. And I would like to thank Professor Anand Kondapi, the IQAC director. Right from the moment of the initiation of this conference, he has been very effective, and he has been an important person in organizing this conference. And I would also like to thank the IOE, led by Professor Gansham, who has voluntarily helped us with the funding for this conference. And I would like to extend my warm regards to the deans of schools, of all the schools of the university, because it's a truly interdisciplinary conference here. And it's their voluntary help that helped accumulate all the guests around in this campus today. And finally, I thank all the guest speakers, the experts in various areas who have come here to share their knowledge on SDGs and to educate our students on the SDGs. And finally, I'm very thankful to all the young minds who are assembled here, the student community here. This entire conference is for you. And I also thank the registrar, the deputy registrar, the assistant registrar, and the entire administration for supporting this conference. And finally, I would like to end my vote of thanks with a quote. Once we start to act, hope is everywhere. So instead of looking for hope, look for action. Then and only then, hope will come. So can you guess who said this? Another young person, of course, Greta Thunberg, who is a very active person working for climate action. So with this message, I think all the students will take this message forward and act upon climate change and all the problems that are that needs to be tackled by the SDGs, or all the goals which we need to address.